Hey folks, good morning. We are going to continue work on this book cover commission, Enroven the Shatterer. It's an adventure for, I think, third tier characters out of the Underdark. It curves into out of the Abyss, I believe. And so give me a second here to go through my, check my signal, go through my intro spiel, and then we'll get to work on continuing to build out this cover. So checking for sound check. 1, 2, 3, sound check. Yeah, it sounds pretty good. Okay, cool. And let's see. Chugga chugga, chugga chugga chugga. Sounds like I'm being beduped, but no time for love, Dr. Jones. 1, and let's see. Okay, great. Hey, my name is Phil Kearney. I create role-playing game supplements, illustrate them, and publish them online. I've been a freelance illustrator for off and on for like 20 some odd years. Currently I do, I can get recruited by folks to do book covers, character art, interior stuff, maps, whatever. So occasionally I get recruited to do stuff. So that's what's happened. I got recruited to do this book cover. So I'll be illustrating. I will be, hold on real quick. There we go. Okay, cool. Everything's up and running. So I'll be working on this book cover. We're illustrating it, and then I've also been hired to do the page dressing and lettering. So we'll do that too. One step at a time, though. If you want to find out more about this stuff in the future, check out what I got going on. You can follow me on Twitter at Phil Kearney here. Or best way to support the channel is to like, subscribe, hit the. We got a new subscriber. Thanks a lot, guys. I really appreciate you. So if you, I'm here 6 days a week, Monday through Friday. I do book art for Spelljammer, Fantasies in Space. Monday and Thursday night I do, perfect. Monday and Thursday night I do cartography and creature tokens for an Eberron adventure. Saturdays here I'm doing this. On Tuesdays at lunch I do book mechanic development for 5e games, and occasionally I'll jump online to do whatever. So I'm here at least 6 days a week, 9 different types of sessions, and so we're going to focus on this for the next, probably 100 minutes or so. I've got a timer going. I've got a fresh pot of coffee. And I'm really excited. So we have the house here for scale. It's obviously in the foreground, so we're going to have to take steps to make sure that A, it's level, but B, that we've got a lot of information about heading downhill, so we have distance. As it sits literally right now, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. It's 4 houses tall, so if this house is 20 feet tall, technically there's 4 of them that would stack up to the height of Enroven's weapon, which makes it about 80 feet tall, which is to spec. So, hey, how are you doing? So we got a Bob Ross house that's going to get, that we're going to use for a point of reference, but we're going to hide our layers for now. And this is what we've developed. So I'll just break down the layers here for you, because this is how Bob Ross works, and so we follow the master. I've done over 100 Bob Ross paintings. You can see on my DeviantArt page at Phil Kearney. But you start with your base. Right, your canvas. Here, I'll hide the dressing as well. There. So we have our base canvas, and then we paint in our sky, which we did back on episode 1, and we created our mountains. You can zoom in here, and you can see that there's not a lot of detail, but you don't have to have a lot of detail, because then we start adding in hills, which has a little bit more language detail. And we add in hill trees, which don't look like a lot individually, but when you back out, it creates that illusion of forestry. And then you add in our grassy knolls, or dirty knolls. And then our knoll trees, which are just slightly larger than the background trees that we had already created here. So it's another layer. It's a darker, more vibrant color, and we have another layer of trees here that is creating little copses and effects that back up, or rather add volume to the piece by pushing the rest of those trees further back. We now have a water line that we're establishing here for a sort of a river setting. Then we build in a land bridge that separates that water path from the foreground area as a subframe, and this ground mass. Burp, burp. Wait, hold on, I skipped a layer. So we have the water layer that already in here, and now we have this mass of trees. So we're continuously pushing back each layer as we stack on another layer. And as you can see, we get closer, it gets more and more vibrant, more contrast. So the atmospheric distortion of being grayed out pushes the piece back. You can see as you tunnel down through into the piece how these little areas are still present but disappearing as you fade into the piece. And then we have our land bridge, which will block off the background from the midground and establish the arena, as it were, for the foreground here. And then we are now at the place where we are going to, there's a portal that this weapon creates. It's a scry, it's an interdimensional scry effect. If you can picture a location, either in this or another dimension, you create a black hole tunnel that destroys everything at its destination, but then creates basically a teleportation circle that the weapon or any supporting troops can pass through to start invading the space that just got destroyed. So as we start putting this together, we'll have trees that are getting basically knocked out of the way as you have a blast zone that's affecting the area where it plane shifts in. And then we'll have the foreground here with the house to help establish distancing. And then we have the actual framing of the page, like we'll have a bottom frame here being torn open. And then from there, we'll have the title, the title stuff. So that's basically the layers that we're working with. So we've just been building up from layer to layer to layer. And although a shitload of all that information is lost because of how the composition with the Helmeca taking up the center of the screen where it should, that pushes all this natural landscape stuff that we built out. It really punches it to the background, but it's still there. So that's the whole point of doing these things, is to build a reality and then to fuck it up. So taking all that into point, what we're going to do is I'm going to play with my frames for a second. Collapse the good stuff. Oh, the frames are in the good stuff. So take the frames out of the good stuff. Collapse the good stuff, push the frames to the front of the good stuff. And that shouldn't change anything. Nope, nothing changed, which is ideal. So now we have our frame and then the title stuff over the frame. I've been advised that there's going to be a tagline, not a byline, down here. So that's going to go. But we're going to use a, hold on real quick, let me go fetch it. dmsguild.com. Oh, I don't know. Let's just grab a random piece here real quick. I'm just being lazy and just grabbing the logo where I know it's at. I have a high res somewhere on file, but I don't feel like creeping around inside of my hard drive trying to find it while we're trying to get some stuff done here on stream. So I'm just gonna borrow this for now. And we'll go grab the high res when we actually need it. There. But for now, we can just drop this guy here in the corner. That's probably a lot more than what we actually need, so let's back it down a little bit. Probably to about like that. I've been instructed that the background is going to be black, and we're going to use the red lettering here. We're going to use the red here on the DM's Guild logo for the lettering that we're going to use in the piece overall. So right now we are getting into our frames. What does this button do? And what about this button? Yeah, that's the proper course. That's basically what we're looking at. So there, and then we'll do our lettering. Go back in here. Come on, Troufaz. Blah, blah, blah. Additional text here. It's just a placeholder, but we haven't worked. The instructions that we have for processing the lettering is going to be using a specific font, but I'm not going to worry about that specifically so much right now. Enravan the Shatter. I'm not sure if that's what the actual end title is going to be, but that's what we're going to use for now. There. Okay, so we'll have that like that for now. And let's see what we can see. We don't have to worry about that anymore. Good stuff. Trash, frame, title block. I'm going to want to mess with the frames a bit more. I'm gonna use a low strength smudge tool to push this up. Get that blue-black Demir effect going on up here. And dump the red text over it. Blue, black, and red, I think in Magic the Gathering is Grixis, I believe. Which is a lot of suffering for perfection sort of language, which is pretty appropriate for demons in general. This is a format that I use a lot with pictures. Have a central frame, and then have black top and bottom, and then have lettering. I don't think I'm doing anything right now. Let's get back up into here, and there we go. So this is a format I'm pretty familiar with. I do hard framing, like I'll have hard frames at the top and the bottom of mine, or I'll have a hard frame on top and then I'll bleed it into the bottom. Like this is, yeah. If you check out my other works, you can go to my Patreon and check out some of the color mana bundles that I've done for Magic the Gathering to Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition conversions to see the type of covers that I typically produce. And this is a little bit of a different take on that. But right now I'm just blending up the sky a bit and seeing how the text, I can actually maybe, if we use a similar red for the lettering here and the magic effect that we have for the portal, I can potentially have the text drip into the portal effect. We'll have an opportunity to play with that once we finish up the landscape. But right now I'm just working on the lighting. The blackness of this frame is going to naturally sort of oppress. It's like it kind of stamps down on the vibrance of the landscape that we have, which is the intention. It's just supposed to be disrupting and ending its world, as it were. So this feels pretty on flavor for what we're attempting right now. And I'm just manually working this color into the canvas just to make sure I like how it fits. Like I could potentially push this back behind the clouds. But that will make breaking the frame like that would push the whole piece forward ahead of the darkness, and ribbon here is bringing the darkness. So having this darkness over the composition is like a blanket that's being pulled over, which is the intent. And then down here, it being ripped open. Is matching the language of the forestry being pushed back. So I'm happy with that overall. I'm going to have to work on looking at the framing for the lettering here. I'm sure that jumps out at people that see color, but folks like me that don't, it doesn't. So I might go with with some white lettering. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see where it's at. I'm not committed to anything yet. Right now we're just playing with ideas in space. So we'll get back to the lettering and the framing. I'll lock that down. But we have what we need down there. This is the overall composition that we're working with now. So that now that we have the framing established, when we build out the groundwork here, we'll know how it's going to interact with this floor. Let me get rid of this. I don't need that anymore. No. Going back to the DM's Guild real quick to show you some of the work I've done. Color, mana. So here's a bundle of books that I've created, and you can see that there's a commonness to like black top, black bottom, and everything stand out black. So that's pretty common for the type of stuff that I do. But I wanted to look at this cover specifically here. See, I have this vegetation invade the lower border. That's not unusual for my work. So you can see I have that same sort of tear effect going on here. So I'll be able to do something similar with having foliage here that will further push the whole piece back underneath the framing and push it back into the canvas. So we've got a lot. This is pretty familiar territory for me, doing stuff like this. And luckily, Andy the commissioner is on board with this sort of work. So I am sitting pretty for now. Let's see. What I want to do is make sure I get blop, 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 this stuff. I want to make sure I get this torn up language into effect. So I'm going to merge this down here and separate these into left and right instead of front and back. Left, right. Good. Okay, cool. So the next step for us to process is to drop the opacity on that. Let's go find our references. That's the kind of coloring we want for our ground. Manipulative thoughts. How you doing, my guy? I want to, I think I want to fire up my pop out over here. Get that to the size of text. I'm pretty blind. I don't see any color, and I have, because I don't have any cones in my eyes, I have horrible resolution as well. So it's difficult for my eye. I can't just zoom in by looking at something and see what people say. I have to physically zoom by moving my face, which I do not want to do apparently. There we go. We'll see if anyone shows up. Welcome to the mix if you're here. So we got that as a base color, and I want to grab, I think, a little bit of this. Let's leave those up for now. Cool. So we're going to take our base color here. We're going to take, oh, I don't know. Let's just grab a chalk brush, my mountain razor. Bloop. And we're going to go there. Brush settings, shape dynamic. Turn on the spin property so I can make that brush dance. This, just going to chunk it in. So when we bring this thing back in, see, we want to have this crater arena sort of effect going on for its basically ground zero where this weapon plane shifts in to destroy the environment. Why it's targeting this area, no reason in particular. It's just an easy way for us to build an environment where you can see the size of the weapon and the effect that it has around it. So let's switch this brush that we're using and push up the opacity. I'm going to start pushing that into the page. Let's do a bit like this. Yeah, these are almost identical, so that's good. this, and we'll start working this into the canvas. At this stage right now, we probably don't need to have layers separated. So I'm just gonna bind these all together so I can get some, let's get some stuff working together. Oh, looks like I've got a, let's go back to our brush settings. Yeah, and it looks like shift dynamics, controls off, spacing is on. We need to turn spacing off. There we go. We're getting too much lag. See, we just got rid of our lag. So spacing causes, like, however far that bar moves over that adjustment trigger, however far over to the right that bar moves, the more instances of your brush are being processed at the same time. So by removing spacing, you only have one instance of the brush, which is, you know, this. So that's the only instance that you have. If you have multiple instances of your brush, you can have a different effect in the smudge tools. Generally, it just makes things a little more smoky, but it also vastly increases the CPU usage because it's attempting to process the movements of multiple brush tips. Basically, like I'm processing 4 brush tips smudging around the top of this window as opposed to 1 smudging around it. So this takes like significantly less. Turning off spacing takes significantly less RAM and processing power for you to be able to execute the command, and hence I was getting lag. So I was getting a little hourglass and there was a stutter effect. So that's easily fixed just by working with your spacing. A lot of tools have default spacing, so if you're new to Photoshop, keeping an eye out in the brush settings toolbox what has and hasn't any spacing effects toggled that will allow you to better understand how the tool performs and what effects you can pull from it. And this is another grassy knoll effect that we're basically producing here, but it frames a reference. It won't be unsettled. It won't be like if I do it right, it'll look like torn up terrain as opposed to settled land, not settled, but sedentary land that's had an opportunity for foliage to grow up on it. What we're trying to do here is blast the foliage away and expose bare stone as a result. So we're using a choppy sort of effect here, and we're pushing away from the center of the blast zone to try to create that effect. So right now we're just fucking around with texture, getting it to grind together. It looks like we've inadvertently created a path here that leads from the wherever into towards where we're at here. So it looks like there's some sort of like a natural path that's going around whatever this little riverway is. So that's pretty cool. Too bad this place is just getting utterly wrecked by this abyssal weapon just showing up to ruin this guy's cottage. That's sad times, man. Sad times. Turn the brush so I can get rid of that artifact, that skipping repetitive tire tread effect that you see. That's called an artifact, And artifacts are when you can tell that the brush stroke is a brush stroke, not texture inside of the composition. So it's like unintentionally lifting the veil for you to see how the sausage is made during the composition of the piece. Just roughing this stuff in. There we go. That feels sufficiently messed up. Sufficiently destroyed for progress. Cheers. So talented I could paint one-handed. All right, I like how that's. I basically like how that is sitting in the space. What we do need to do is I want to get a reflection down. So I'm going to need to pull that back and that. I'm a man on a mission, so hold on. Drop that a bit. And then we got our water line here. I don't need that. What I do need is, let's grab all this. Control, copy, paste. Bum, bum, bum. Bum, bum, bum. Put water line back in. So what I want to do is take this, I'm going to flip it. I'm going to take this, I'm going to drop it down. Something probably like that. About here. Let's get this lined up properly here. There. Good. This. Basically there, I think is where we want to be at. Now I have like just a little hint of a glossiness going on back there. Not a big effect, but something I wanted to have included. Hey, timely timer. Time for me to take a sip of coffee. Cool. Got that into effect. Now we can go back to the close background. Lock those back up. There we go. All right, trees. That's where we're at right now. So let's go back up into our references, grab some dark trunk. That's pretty good. Let's grab a round brush, put it down to the proper size. Get these guys back. Drop that background down to minimal. Go back to here. I can drop this down further. Just like that. Not quite that dark. I want to break those trees. So, how do we want to do this? I've never done shattered trees like this before. This is new territory for Phils. So, I probably want to have roots kick up like that. That's fun. There's a gap here between this tree line and these knocked down trees that we're working with right now. So we will skew this for now. Skew. Wrong answer. We'll push those up a bit. Let's check in where our... Yeah, that sits pretty. Probably don't have to do a ton of detail to make this work. Just go back to our reference. Take another layer. Let's grab some foliage. Windows, brush settings, shape dynamics, dynamic, brush, no spacing, tap back, close up. Yeah, I think that might work. Let's find a highlight. Man, that's sharp. Let's wrangle that in a bit. Yeah, I think that'll work. Let's flatten that out a bit. Hey, Jared. What's going on, my guy? It's good to see you around, my guy. How you doing? It still feels too sharp. I want to pull that back a bit. Another layer on top of this here. Nice. Nice, nice, nice. A bit. Thin that down a touch. See about dropping the opacity a smidge. Push that back, yeah. And then we'll drop the opacity on that a touch as well. Maybe I need to lighten up the branch. Let's see what I can do to grab something here that I like. Love this song. So when I do this, I want to conceal the trunk in the highlighted areas and allow the dark spots to show off where the trunk is at. So light, dark, light, dark, light, dark. It's that same sequencing to help create dichotomy and pop on the page. Yeah, I could sample this song to be like another 20 minutes long. Feels pretty good. Drop that a bit. There, knockdown effect. That's irrelevant. This is what I'm going to pick out a little bit here. Oops, wrong color. Wrong color, ace. Let's go back. There we go. A bit here, drop that down. There. Not sure how successful this effort is. Let's go to a So I've never done an uprooted tree before, so this is a learning experience for me, and I don't know if I'm necessarily going to hit it the first time right. Like, I'm liking some of the ideas here with the branch, like with the trunks and stuff, but we'll have to see if the overall piece plays out. We may have to come back into this layer and just redo this stuff, but I think for now it's doing okay. I tell you, the spell generator book I've been working on in the mornings has been a real bear for me because when we built the mechanics, right? So we have a way to be able to express these things in text, but then when I start adding visual like diagrams and like ship like visual examples of like how ships and fleets and stuff move or like group together and stuff like that, it's oh yeah, I like this broken wave effect. I think that's panning out. Stick with that. But yeah, it's proven to be a challenge because the text without a picture, like pictures alone make sense, text alone often makes sense, but when you attempt to combine a picture with text, you need to make sure that the text and the pictures are talking about this, like quote unquote talking about the same thing, so that we have so that they're actually complementing each other. So I'm finding that like in the fleet section, I'm having to to rewrite chunks of it so that the illustration, so the context of the illustration actually makes more sense, and that it's actually expressing what we want it to express. Like, it makes sense when you're reading through it, but as you start adding like I just said, when you add the illustrations, you have to reevaluate what it was that the text that we initially provided was. And so that's another instance of that project getting slowed down. But it's also an example of how things requiring them to take their time is often worth it, because I think that's going to end up being a really, really strong product once we finally get all the elements put together for it. I think hopefully it should be pretty intuitive for people to understand. But looking forward to that piece being finished. Let's grab Oh my god, that was 20 minutes again already? Holy crap, time's flying for my soul. I must be having fun. I think that's playing out the way that I want it to. Let's add our mid-ground back in. Yeah. Yeah, that's matching the curvature that we need. Good. Yes. God, yes, that's actually working. Holy crap. Oh man, that is a dopamine hit. Holy Hannah. Artists get addicted to the dopamine surge that you get when you solve a problem. That's why AI is a real robbery for artists, because it's the act of creation that releases the that sense of accomplishment and pride, where that dopamine starts to trigger in. And by cutting yourself off, like, what'll happen is artists will start to substitute effort and execution of vision and results, like getting that pop effect that I just got for realizing what I'm trying to build works. Like, the dopamine surge that I get from that has been basically what's the word I'm looking for? curated inside of me over decades of doing art prior to the presence of real social media. So as my artistic endeavors compel me because of that emotional chemical fix that I get. And so what'll happen is when people post works on like Reddit or Facebook or Twitter or wherever it is, Discords, wherever it is that you like to go to sharpen your knives, posting a piece of work on the refrigerator and saying, look what I did, and then getting lots of smiles and likes and whatever from the folks that you're showing it to, that gives you a dopamine surge from the acceptance and approval and praise from your peer group. But that replaces the sense of, like, the sense of accomplishment is now being controlled by crowdsourcing. That you are looking to get the collective's approval for the work that you do, and to get your dopamine surge from their approval, their likes, as opposed to you defining the effort that, like, instead of you defining what an accomplishment is and what the end goal is. Like, and this is like, my end goal was to be able to create an effect that looked like the forest and ground was being burst away from the damaging planar rift that gets opened by this weapon. So the surge of dopamine that I got was me realizing that I had accomplished the goal that I had set out for myself, and that I succeeded, right? But if I was addicted to the social media acceptance of this picture, I wouldn't get that surge. I would have a nervous energy about me until I posted it on social media and got the praise that I wanted from my peer group. And if that praise didn't happen because they didn't like the piece for one reason or another, all the work that I'm putting into this would go unfulfilled, because I'm not setting the terms for my own accomplishment and my own rewards. I'm outsourcing that to other people, much like how children have to outsource their sense of self to what their parents will or their siblings will approve. And then as we continue to evolve, as we age into our peer groups and our teams and stuff like that. And that's how you disconnect yourself from the larger experience of being a satisfied, fulfilled human. Because we have been outsourcing our sense of worth and integrity and individuality to the internet. And thus to basically to Google and Meta and Twitter is who we've asked to curate our own sense of self-being and worthiness, which is where consumerism comes from, because the only time we feel any praise is when we see a product that's like, oh yeah, I know that product, or I like that product, or I bought that product. That is ultimately what replaces our own sense of self-worth, is that consumerism, that materialism, where we're getting our dopamine fix from belonging to the collective. And you can belong too if you own this purse, or buy this car, or eat this food, or go to this movie, or agree with this statement, or shun this person. That's how we surrender our individuality and allow an uncaring entity such as corporate greed to dictate terms of what we are allowed to be happy about, what we're allowed to talk about, what we're allowed to think, how we're allowed to interact, who do you get to love. I think I'm missing some text down on the block, but I think that's all my muse wanted to say at this moment. So, hey, what's up? My sis and bro are... Bro, I love it. Right on. Oh, the painting? Thanks. Thank you. Glad you guys are enjoying the process. I'm here 6 days a week. I do a coffee, lovingly call it our coffee morning stream, where I work for 100 some odd minutes in the morning before I go to my day job. And then I have my lunchtime stream on Tuesdays, where I do 5th edition game mechanic development. On Monday and Thursday night, I do cartography and creature NPC token production for the Eberron adventure that we're publishing. And then on Saturdays like this, I either do personal projects or commissions, depending on what I've got on my plate, what I want to do, and who's asking. So we have this. We have this forestry that we can add in here. Let's put that guy back in. So we have this forestry in the foreground that we can add back in. I think I can afford to increase the area there. So we'll have to do this this blast effect. We'll have to duplicate it over here, but we'll also have to create a ring of it back here as the portal comes through. I'm thinking I want to keep this the sepia wash here. Sepia refers to a semi-transparent glaze of color that is overall affecting the lighting of whatever it's overlaying. A sepia tone or sepia wash. So that's what I'm talking about there. That feels pretty good. Push. I get an idea about how I think things are supposed to be. There's something wonky going on with my program. Hold on. Thank you. There. I think I had some CPU just grinding down for a moment. Let's see where we're sitting here. So want this effect in about like that. Thank you. Oh, wow. That's off center. Collapse that down. Up, 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 up. Up. I don't think this ring is doing me any favors right now. I'm going to merge these down. I'm going to get rid of that. This seems like the start of a good idea, but you know, honestly, I don't think it is. So I'm going to get rid of all that shit. Sometimes things work, sometimes they don't. Let's get back into this. Push this in since we know this is what we actually need. Let's get this back in and do some of this. Like that. I don't think that Bob Ross house is going to survive this experience. I got a bad feeling about that house. Just to remind us, we have a house here. Here's our foreground. Here's our house, and there's the bad news. So let's see. Let's see how all this shit shakes out. I'm gonna take this. I'm gonna cut, paste, bop. I'm gonna be cheap and cheeky, and literally copy, paste, and flip. See that angle is gonna be wrong, but it'll help us get a sense of where we're at in the piece. That it'll help us get our proportion right. Transform. Let's pull that open. Now let's do a perspective thing. I think that'll help us. Nice. And then skew to pull that angle a bit. And then perspective some more. Pull on that. The violence. Ish. That's a strong ish over here. Let's see. I feel like pull that in a touch. I don't even know what purpose you serve. You're out of here, buddy. All right. That barely has a purpose. That has a purpose. Good. Okay. Let's start doing this. See how that ends up. blast zone. Hey, timely timer. Take a sip. I still got 20 minutes. All right, so what I'm going to do is, now that we have this general idea of blasting, put this in as a second layer here for the second ring. It's going to go off screen. Good. Let's do that again. Again. I'm using the wrong tool for the job. Let's go find something that will bring me joy. There we go. Round hot brush, bring me joy. Good. Stipple this in, Bob Ross style. Just tapping in some forestry here. Tap, tap, tap-a-roo. Round it up a bit. Scruff up that bottom a bit. the roots. Just like that. And take this here, new layer. Up. Come back in with a more brightly colored branch effect here. Grab that color. Come back over to here. We'll switch up our brush again to here, and then shape up. Shape up. Just trying to get a sense of that lean that we've got going on there. Trees don't do that normally. That's a good indication that something has gone awry over here. Let's break up the scrubbage. Up again, like we did on the other side. Try that again. scrubbage in a little bit, erase it down, just get some texture going to break it up, just to muddy up the space a little bit, as it were. As it would be muddy. Set that over here, chop, chop, chop. So far, so good. So what? I think now that we have that in, I can be a little bit more informed about creating these ridge effects. So let's drop back to our terrain brush, the color that we're using here for broken terrain. Pull that down here like that towards the nexus. Let's drop this thing in here again so we can see our center point, so we know what we're pulling towards. I'm going to be thinking about this outer ring here, curving around like that. Do things like that. Tool is going to be here in Seattle on the 20th of October. I am very much looking forward to that. We've got some decent front center seating down on the floor. First time ever seeing Tool. I think I'm going to be very happy. I'm a fucking Tool nut. Wasn't a big fan of Opiate, but that was the very first album that they basically put out. So I mean, they were just trying to get their shit together. But pretty much everything from Undertow forward has been really good. I was only so much of a fan of 10,000 Days, but I respect it. I don't like the music as much, but as always, their messaging is fantastic. Fear Inoculum is just, I would say Fear Inoculum is as good as Enema. Easily. That is a powerful album. I can afford to get rid of this and this and this, and then stack on another layer here. Oops, wrong color. Let's go with the colors we were intending on. So it's at one of the casinos south of Seattle. So grabbed a hotel room with some friends, and Belle is gonna have the day off on Friday with me. What is it? October 20th? Yeah, it's a Friday. And my anniversary with Belle is on the 19th, so we decided to really splurge and just get ourselves a really good time to celebrate us. So I can keep this circular effect. I just got to make sure I'm keeping my positioning in mind to make sure that the perspective stays good. This is basically my center point. So far, all of this seems to be respecting that. This is doing okay too. So I can smudge this out, and then I can paint over it with the highlight color. Make for better center. Let's find out. Yes. As long as I keep having everything pointing towards that central point, we're going to be okay with that geometrically. Curve that out. Yeah, it's feeling pretty good. Whoa. Alright, I'm gonna let it go. It's almost 11. I want to at least finish this thought and push on a little bit before I call it quits for the day. Here's our foreground. Get rid of that. Let's go back blast. So this is our back blast so far. And now I want to foreground, house in the front. It's gonna have to get pushed back a bit. What I'm losing is that it's starting to tilt forward towards the camera. You can see that? So I need to take all of this here and curve it up like that. That there, we got this here, those together, that feels pretty good. Just collapse this in together, mid, cool. That's still owning its space. Foreground, still looking good. Okay, so what we'll need to do is I need to, next I need to establish our circle. Survive the experience here. Actually, the geometry and structure of that house kind of complements the DM's Guild logo that's down at the bottom there. So I think we can do that. Have more devastation over here, and since this is offline a little bit further. Let's go here. Free transform. Yeah. Yep, that is bringing me joy. Moving that out of that space there frees me up to be able to wreck this place a little bit more, and this is a little bit further away from the blast's point of perspective. So that's going to allow me to, well, let's first make sure we're sitting, nope, wait, sitting pretty equals here. There, and then let's get rid of the referencing right now. I think this is gonna work, so I'm just gonna take this texture and just start smudging it into the landscape since I don't have to worry about this corner anymore. Moving the house to the other side. Cabin. This will let us blast out this area a little bit more and start using that as just some base topography for us to build wrecked shrubbage on. Because technically the destruction stops inside of this spot here, so we can still have blowout, but the foliage should survive. It's just going to get shunted and kicked around a little bit. So we can have a cottage over here. We just want to make sure that the blast effect is pulling away from this spot towards the center as opposed to towards the center. Like over here, we can the texture and line weight we can use can pull away from the structure like this, since we're not focusing any kind of artifacts over this area that would disrupt that effect. So we can afford to chunk out this area here and then be out of the blast radius over here. So I'm gonna blump that in like that a little bit to start getting some base around here for the trees to tilt off of. This has been an interesting challenge for me. I kind of have an idea of what I want things like. I have an idea of what I'm trying to express with a piece, and a general idea of what different elements are going to be in it. But how the actual piece plays out and what actions need to be taken to accomplish the vision that we've been fed, I don't have those answers most of the time. So it's really fun to go through this process, and in a lot of ways the composition gets exposed to me at the same time that you're witnessing it. Like, I don't know what the answers are until I start letting the ink hit the page, as it were, and let that all flesh itself out. So it's really, I get to be audience member as much as everyone else does that's on stream. So I really don't know what's going to happen with the piece. I've been blessed so far that I haven't had any drastic failures anytime recently, which is always tempting fate to say, I know. It's not that you're tempting fate, it's that you're picking up intuitively that there's something that is awry, and you are instinctively appreciating that you haven't had to deal with anything like what your depths are imagining. Like, boy, I'm glad I haven't had to deal with any of that stuff. Why am I thinking about that in the first place? Well, get ready. Get ready, buddy. That's why. it's just about brunch time here in Seattle. And then I'll be offline for the rest of the day. I should be back on Monday. I want to keep working on that Eldraine conversion project of looking at that monster manual of Eldraine creatures that was released on the D&D Beyond. Apparently, this is the first time that they've charged money for something like this, so I feel bad for supporting that in that sense. But again, it's Magic the Gathering, and I am an absolute MTG color mana nut when it comes to integrating with D&D. So if it's out there, I'm going to get it. I wasn't necessarily a fan of how they built Strixhaven, but I was absolutely a huge fan of the different colleges and Arcavius, the plane of existence that it exists on. So, and that is my morning ping to let me know it is in fact time for brunch. So I'm going to go ahead and cut stream here for the day, guys. I'm loving how this is coming along. I think this is a great effect. I think we're doing some really good work here. I'm looking forward to seeing how it finishes up. But we'll stop for now. We'll be back again next week. Once we finish the actual illustration, we've been recruited to do the lettering as well. So we'll figure out how to solve those problems as we go. I'm having a lot of fun. So thanks a lot for sticking around, guys. Anyone else checking it out, I'm here 6 days a week. I'll be back Monday morning doing more Spelljammer fantasies and space art. And so you can follow me on Twitter at Phil Kearney. Liking, subscribe here on the channel is absolutely the best way to show support to help me build and grow. So I will be back. I'll be back on Monday. I hope you guys have a great weekend. See y'all later.